Hi buddy, welcome back. I'm Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch notes for patch 818 League of Legends, or actually patch 819 League of Legends. So let's go ahead and get in here. So as I've been doing for the past few patches, I do travel every week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then I get back really late Thursdays. That's still going to be the case for about another month or so until we get moved into our new house. So with the patch notes video, I just look at Surrender at 20 on the Monday before the patch releases. They don't typically make any extra changes in that last little bit. Sometimes there are some cases where something was not in sort of the Surrender at 20 but ends up popping into the patch notes. If that happens, I'll make a comment on this video and I'll let you know about anything that I don't talk about that was kind of moved in at the last minute that wasn't covered by Surrender at 20. But this is usually accurate like 90 to 95% of the time. This is how channels like Philol and Red Mercy are able to do their watch out, 10 things to watch out for in the next patch video, because they use the Surrender at 20. But let's go ahead and get in here and talk about some of these changes here. Alright, so Darius is gaining bonus physical damage from his W by a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what he scales. I think he maxes his Q first. I would imagine his W would be the second thing to max, because you would want more chances to pull with your E. So this is going to matter a little bit. It's 10% extra damage, but you only use it every now and then. So it's probably not that big of a deal, but it's okay. He doesn't get a lot of bonus attack damage either. He typically, these days, gets Trinity, and then he would get Trinity or Cleaver, and then just a bunch of tank stuff, usually. So, this is nice. It's not going to matter that much. This, however, might matter a little bit more. Although probably not. 5% extra armor pin. But that's still pretty decent. I mean, I think this one's probably more meaningful than this one. Either way, I mean, I think Darius is in an okay state right now. He's pretty strong in solo queue. We're probably not going to see him at Worlds. I mean, I guess there's a chance you could see him. He's pretty good. I don't even think that he needs buffs that much. So, yeah, I'm not really sure why they're buffing him, but okay, he gets some small buffs. I don't think it's going to make him, like, unstoppable or anything like that, but he's still going to be very strong, especially in Bronze and Silver. Okay. Elise getting the cooldown lowered on her E. This is almost exclusively for pro play. Elise is not that great in solo queue right now. She's kind of like in the vein of Nidalee, like early game pressure, AP support, or AP jungler rather. But she does have her cocoon scaling, which is really nice for sort of engage later on, right? And that's why she historically has been used in pro play. Now, this is the thing I believe that you max. You obviously max Q first. It's been a while since I've seen an Elise or played as Elise. The E is the webbing though, so it feels like in pro play she would probably max this second. So if that's the case, then this buff is not going to matter that much. If you max W second, which is just the Gorge Spiderling, which I'm pretty sure people max third, then this won't matter that much. So, like, early levels, it'll let you repel more often, and I guess that's good. But I don't think this is magically going to bring her back. I think that most pro players, unless it's a hyper-scaling jungler like a Kindred or something like that, which occasionally might get picked up, they're going to highly prioritize tanks in the jungle, is what I feel like. Or, like, if they want early game power, it would probably be something like a Lee Sin, who can have the early game power and then transition more into a tank later. So I don't think we're going to see that much Elise. But we'll see. They have been nerfing the tanks a lot. But I don't think this is probably enough to bring her back. Okay, Fiora. This is a very big deal, I think, especially for pro play and laning. An extra 30 heal off of proccing that passive early on is really nice. I already think that Fiora is pretty good against tanks. And the pro play tank meta is still going to be in full effect. So I think she's going to be pretty strong. She's a great split push option if a team really wants to split. If you have a very good top laner, then she's probably a good option. So I think she's still pretty solid in solo queue, probably tier 2, maybe tier 1. I would say probably tier 2 comfortably, though, for top lane. in solo queue, but in pro play, I think that, like I said, I think this could be pretty legit. That's quite a bit of extra healing. This is not going to matter. This is not why Janna has problems right now. You know, a lot of people aren't like, oh, Janna, you know, I wish I had more of this in the laning phase. No. They need to give her the speed back on her tornado. Like, that's the biggest thing for me. And that's like a very skill expression. When did they nerf that anyways? Let me see this. Like, they've nerfed Janna so many times. Let's see if we can get it here. Okay. Yeah, after 0.75 seconds, it starts decaying. I mean, that was really bad. I mean, I think the big problem with Janna was the extra AD, the hidden power that she got off of her shield. So I don't know why they never lowered that. Just lower that to plus 20 AD. You know, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 would be how it levels up. So that would be knocking 20 AD off of the shield. And then just, this decay thing is stupid. Like, just get rid of the decay. But anyways, that's how it is. And they nerfed her W, which isn't that bad, but it's, like, these all just add up. But I'm trying to see the tornado thing, when that was. Okay, so near the end of last season, they just really punched her in the face with some of these nerfs. Cost increase, base stats reduced. I mean, how many nerfs? Okay, this is where they kind of like mini reworked her. This right here. This is it. It always reaches its destination in 1.5 seconds. That means for the quick cast tornado, you know, for the minimum range, which is 1,000, it moves way, way slower than it used to. And the problem with this is, like, it's particularly against Leona. That matters a lot, that it hits her and stops her halfway through her engage so that she can't get close enough to Q and hit somebody. But now she can because of that change. This is like one that almost nobody talks about, but as someone who's played thousands of Janna games over time, this is a very, very big deal, and it feels terrible. So this is the one thing that I think could distinguish a good Janna player from just an autofill Janna player. And that's always been the problem with Janna, is that, like, you can tell the difference in good Janna play, but someone could just be autofilled and still be very effective. You know, she'd have a super high play rate historically with a 54-55% win rate. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to make a difference. I don't think. I mean, they already nerfed Celerity also, which was kind of a big deal on her, but it's just a little bit of extra damage. What, 10% extra conversion at level 1? I mean, how much bonus movement speed are you going to have? You know, what do you get, like maybe 5, 7 more damage, something like that. Like, at the most. I really don't think it's going to matter that much. So she's not, like, completely unplayable. I just think that it's very difficult to play her, even into some of the aggressive engaged champs in laning phase. So, yeah, she's still, like, probably pretty serviceable against things like Tahm, Kench, and Braum in solo queue, but against things like Leona and Alistar, her tornado is just too slow to stop them as reliably as she used to be able to stop them. Okay, Jarvan, Martial Cadence. Okay. I guess this would help out laning Jarvan top lane. It'd probably help his jungle clear a little bit too. Jarvan was a real terror last year in the jungle. He was completely dominant for almost the entire year. I'm not sure. They nerfed a couple of things about him. I didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal. But I think in the preseason, he just doesn't use a lot of the runes very well. But now I think, in theory, I don't know. Feels like he could still be okay. But there's a lot of mobility in the game, too, at a ton of different positions. So I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't fully understand why he left the meta to begin with. Because he was so dominant for so long. So I'm not sure if this would be enough to bring him back. But that's certainly pretty nice, particularly for lane Jarvan. So, we'll see. He does lead to some interesting team comps where you can have like AoE team comps, people that like when he gets them in his ultimate, people who can just throw a bunch of AoE in there, like Rumble. Classically, things like Rumble, Zyra, Cannon, Anivia, all kinds of stuff that can really do a bunch of AoE damage. So we'll see. Maybe we see some Jarvan plus Galio comps or something like that. Jarvan plus Galio plus Rumble. You know, those type of comps might be good again. But I don't think it's going to make a huge deal, but it could have more ramifications than I'm thinking because, like I said, I don't fully understand why people stopped playing him in the first place. Okay. Kha'Zix, I don't think that's going to matter. I mean, people don't evolve his W. I assume it's usually still his Q after the nerf to his R. I assume that evolve now is probably Q and then E. But I don't know for sure. I don't think it's going to matter, though. Kog'Maw, base movement speed. This is nice because he has no other escapes, so he should have at least a little more movement speed. And then living artillery range. That seems like a very weird buff. I mean, AP Cog maybe, but it just seems really bad. I don't know. I think Kog'Maw is still going to be on the out here. One of the big reasons people would play AP Cog before is because he did quite a bit of magic damage. And now you have Kai'Sa. I think Kai'Sa just does almost everything Cog does, but better. Now she's shorter range, but she has more mobility. She has more defense. She just has more utility. And I think her damage output is very similar. So until they nerf Kai'Sa more, I feel like we're still going to see a lot of Kai'Sa rather than Cog. So we'll see. I mean, the nerf to his W kind of threw him out the window. He still does a lot of damage, but not as much as he used to. And then nerfs to things like Gensu's and Wit's End really hurt him a lot too. He was very strong earlier in the season. He'd go this like Gensu Wit's End build, and it was very strong because then the reduction to magic resist also made his W do more damage, and of course both of those make him attack faster. And then the Gensu's would double proc the Wit's End also, so you could go like Gensu, Wit's End, Blade of the Ruined King or something and do a ton of damage, but I think there's just been too many nerfs. Okay, Nunu. Okay. So, healing on champs is less. But you gain more damage against monsters. Okay. Snowball. More AP damage, so they're trying to get people to play AP Nunu. I don't think it's going to matter that much. He doesn't feel that strong to me. I mean, we'll see. But I feel like he's not going to be that impactful. Now, this is a pretty big one. 50 extra execute damage at level 1 is a real big deal. It's 25% more damage at level 1. Especially for the tank build. And I thought they were trying to get rid of this tank build and make you buy more AD. If they wanted to do this, I probably would have like added on to the AD ratio. Just gave it like 10% more bonus AD scaling or something on the execute. They're just flat out giving it to you at 50, which is a big deal because it's not damage. Like, it doesn't get blocked by shields. It doesn't get mitigated by armor or magic resist. It's like better than true damage because it doesn't even get blocked by shields. So, what's going on, Sadie? Sadie is wanting some petting. All right. She keeps like trying to paw at my hand. So yeah, I think it's going to be really good. I already think that Pike was tier 1. I don't know necessarily that he's the best support in solo queue right now, but I think that he is very good with that tank build. If you don't know what that is, be sure to check out the support tier list. I'll talk about it in there, as I have been for the last few patches. But yeah, I mean, this is going to boost him up a lot. He's going to be very, very scary. And, you know, this resets also. So you can kill one person for 250 and then eventually kill another person for 250. Just think of it in percentage terms. It's 25% more damage as soon as he pops level 6. It's very good. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but that's a scary prospect. I don't mind Pike being a little bit better. It's pushing the envelope, though. He's getting on the strong side. I feel like they need to nerf his passive. I mean, you shouldn't be able to heal back like all of your damage on no cooldown. Like, I think that if the healing's fine, but maybe they need to say something like, if hey, thanks for the sub, Javier. I appreciate it. Maybe they need to say something like you have 5 seconds to trigger it or something. Kind of like, it's sort of like Tom Kench's Grayskin. I don't know. But it's different. Obviously, Tom Kench's Grayskin can become a shield. I just think that, like, the fact that it stays on there for so long, I don't even know if it ever falls off. And that you can just constantly trigger it by going out of vision. That's how I would nerf it. I would say, look, fine, you can heal back a lot, but you need to go out of sight within 5 seconds to get it, or something like that. Or just nerf the flat numbers on the healing. I don't mind his hook or his E. I think that's pretty balanced. I think his damage output overall is okay. I just feel like he's really safe to begin with because of his E. He can just get out of a lot of situations and his invisibility. And just the fact that he can heal back like 70% of the damage makes it like really difficult to trade against him in the laning phase. So like even if you engage on him, right, even if you hook him as Leona and he trades back on your 80 carry and then just runs out of vision with his W, you know, your 80 carry is still probably going to be at half health and he's going to be back to full. So I just feel like he doesn't get punished enough for, you know, having this like really high octane ultimate. And getting a lot of gold and being able to scale harder than a lot of other supports. And for just like how safe he is. So, I don't think he's going to be, like I said, super overpowered after this, but I think he's already pushing the envelope a little bit. What is his win rate? The main reason, if you're wondering, and you know, in the past I had said that I didn't think he was going to be that great if he continued to rely on bonus AD scaling. Well, he doesn't anymore. That's what changed, is that he just builds full tank and then just does a lot of base damage on his ult and has a ton of healing with his passive. Okay, let's see how he's looking here. I'd say he's probably about 50. Yeah, he's around 50%. So I don't know, but a lot of that is because some people are just really bad on him. What's the delta? Does it tell us the delta here? Yeah. Yeah, so the delta basically with this means like the difference between like basically someone who's a specialist and someone who is like auto-filled, or just like the average person, right, that's playing this. So that is a pretty good indicator of how hard a champion is to play, is the delta, which is a cool metrics that Lolo uses now. So basically what that means is that you could have someone who wins 8% more games, I believe, if they play this champion. So like Thresh, for example, Thresh 1-tricks are going to be 59% on Thresh, whereas a normal Thresh player would be 51%. Versus Nami, normal people would be 54%. And then 1-tricks would be 59%. So the delta's a lot higher. And it's on the champions I always talk about as being pretty high skill cap. So Pyke is one of those. So Thresh is an 8 delta, and Pyke is an 8 delta. So some of that's just because the champion might be weird. And and just not played a ton. So, for example, we've got Shen and Annie. And, like, if people pick, especially something like Annie, they might just be trolling or, like, have no experience in the bot lane whatsoever. Now, Rakan's pretty far up there. I know I was debating some people in the channel, who I won't name, but about, like, how difficult Rakan is to play. And I said that, you know, the three, like, some of the three most difficult mainstream supports to play were Thresh, Pyke, and Rakan. And, you know, she was saying that Rakan wasn't really that hard to play. And it's like, well, his skill shots, I mean, his Q doesn't matter that, like, in the landing phase, it's okay. But, like, and his R is a lot easier to land than, like, a Thresh hook, his R plus W, than, like, a Thresh hook or a Pyke hook. But he's very squishy also. If you get CC'd, so if you go in at the wrong time and you get crowd control, you're going to get blown up. So it's really a lot about the decision making, and there's so many different ways you can, like, jump and decide to engage in different combos that he's not, like, super mechanically intense, although you could miss that W a lot. Like, a non-empowered W, if you don't have your ult with it, can be dodged, I would say, you know, just about as easily as something like a Thresh hook can be dodged in a lot of circumstances. But yeah, he's got a 7.5 delta, so it's pretty far up there. I find it's interesting that Zyra only has a 1.8 delta, which is interesting, because I feel like there are a lot of suboptimal Zyra players out there. But anyways, let's get back to the task at hand here. So I think that Pyke's at about a 50% win rate. I think this will bump him up probably 1 or 2%. You know, 51, 52% win rate. So I think he's one of the huge winners of this patch. He's a big deal. I've been playing him a lot. I think he's fun. I think overall it's good for the game to have, like, more of these aggressive playmaking supports be sort of be very strong. And that makes it feel like support is something you can carry with, because people are so concerned about carrying, you know, these playmaker supports. It feels like you have more opportunities to actively influence the game. Although I would say, like, the old school Janna stat stick, just get a bunch of really strong stats. I mean, that's carrying too, but it's invisible power. And Riot really doesn't like that. They want people to feel like they have control over the game. So, I think overall that's pretty good for Pyke. Tahm Kench getting another nerf, base health 70. Jesus, like, that's such a massive nerf, especially for pro play. They just hate Tahm Kench. And I mean, I kind of understand why. He's very anti-fun to play against. Now, he's fun to play, but he's very anti-fun to play against. And he's pretty anti-fun to watch, I think, from a pro perspective. Right? So if you're wanting to watch, like, some fancy Thresh action bot lane or Pyke action, or you want to see, you know, somebody play Ashe and hit those cool skill shots or whatever, or Varus, you know, Tahm Kench just blocks, just stops a lot of engage. And it just, like, he encourages this kind of, like, passive farm-off playstyle until sort of the mid-game where he can use his ult to rotate around and make plays in the side lane. So it not only sort of discourages split pushing in the late game because he can ult on him, so people have to play really conservative in that sense, but it also, like, in team fights, discourages hard engage. And just, you know, a bunch of tanks and just hyper carry 80 carries that scale up and just, you know, overpower him. So just beat him down. So it's okay. I mean, I love Kench. Kench was my most played champion in Season 6. And, you know, he's a cool champ, like I said, but I understand why they want to get rid of him in pro play. But I disagree with the way they're nerfing him, though. They just should nerf his ult. Like, they're nerfing all of his base stats. They nerfed his grayskin. You know, they've nerfed so many things. When they really just needed to make his ult like 150 or 180 second cooldown, just like Twisted Fate or Shen. But the problem is, it's still 120 second cooldown. And that is just too fast for pro play. So they've wanted to say, look, okay, you can keep the globals. You can keep the global on him, but we're going to nerf everything else about him, which means we're going to nerf him for solo queue a lot, but we're going to keep him, like, decent for pro play through the ult. Whereas they could have just nerfed the ult, let him keep his stats, And then he would be, like, not as affected in solo queue, but he would still hurt in pro play. So I just disagree. Because anything that, like, requires the coordination is going to be way better in pro play than solo queue. So if you're trying to nerf stuff for pro play that won't affect solo queue as much, then you nerf things that require coordination. So yeah, they nerfed his Tongue Lash, they nerfed the Devour. I'm okay with this nerf. Like, that is such a huge... It's basically like a free Quicksilver Sash. So, I'm okay with that one. That's a massive nerf, though. But I don't think they needed to nerf this. And this is a nerf. I don't think they needed to nerf that. Okay, and they got rid of that. That's pretty obnoxious, how he used to be able to, moving towards enemies. Although that wasn't used that much. He originally used to be able to run away from people with bonus movement speed, which is super troll. And I think nerfing the Grayskin was a bad idea. So, and this is where they nerfed him a lot here too, I think. No, they buffed him a little bit in 720. So I guess he hasn't received, like, a huge series of nerfs in a while. Like, this was actually a buff near the end of last season. But these last few patches, like the 8.8 and then the 8.16, and now adding in this one, it's pretty rough on him. So, you know, I'm kind of sad for the solo queue Tahm Kench players. He already has just like an abysmal win rate, I think. Yeah, he's already at 47%. Which is some of the lowest of any mainstream supports. But yeah, that's how it is. Okay, Thresh. I think this is really cool that they're buffing Thresh. Now, Thresh is... He's one of those high Delta champs. But he's already doing alright. 50, 51%. He's very popular right now to play. I think he is really strong. But the Enchanters are still pretty strong too. Right? So, like, Sona and Nami are very strong. They're trying to pick stuff that's, like, good, or, like, do things that are good against Enchanters as well, buff those. But you still see, like, a lot of other engaged champs are pretty good, too, or even better. You've got, like, Alistar, Leona, Blitz. So, statistically, Thresh could go up a little bit. But it's always a little dangerous to ban something, or to buff something like Thresh that's already, like... pretty strong, but he is someone that you could see more of in pro play, and I think Thresh is the most fun champion to watch as a support champ, so I like that they're buffing him. So they're lowering the cost on Q, which is a big deal. It's 25% less mana, and they're lowering the cooldown at lower ranks to 16, which is awesome. So, you know, once you get to level 9, it's basically going to be the same, but this is nice. You can fish for some more early game hooks. Not run out of mana in extended trades. So, I think this is pretty sweet. So, I think that Thresh is already very good right now, and I think this will make him better. So, I think the two biggest winners are going to be Pyke and Thresh. Biggest loser is probably going to be Tahm Kench. I don't guess they really nerfed anybody else. This other stuff is not going to be as consequential. Maybe the Jarvan. But the other stuff's not going to matter as much, I don't think. And then finally, they're adding in some extra Leandry. So the AP is lowered by 5, but the max health bonus damage is increased by 1/3, which is a lot. So it goes from 3% to 4.5%. And then it's only an extra 1% rather than doubled. But that's still a lot. So that's 7.5%, which is more than what it used to be, I think. So this is very nice. This is going to be a pretty big buff, I think, for mid to late game, like Zyra and Brand in particular. And then you might see some other champs. Anivia really likes this. So there's a chance you could see some Anivia at Worlds. Like an Anivia comp would probably be something that like has a really good split pusher potentially. I'm trying to envision what that would be. But Anivia has such great wave clear that if you had like a Fiora in your side lane who was just running haywire and you just wanted to be able to push with Anivia, push and team fight with the rest of your squad. Anivia is very good with Jarvan also. Obviously when he traps people you can you know, you get a free stun and use your ult on him. So I think Anivia is really good. She's just not great at roaming to side lanes. But we'll see. I'm trying to think of other people. Obviously, someone like Talia would probably like this as well. There are other champs out there, but I think where this is definitely going to be a big hit is with Zyra and Brand in solo queue. And then we'll see in pro play. This is a very strong item, especially against tanks. But it doesn't have mana on it, and it doesn't have CDR on it. So that's why, you know, a lot of mid laners won't get this, right? Because they're more interested in getting their Luden's Echo, or if they're a mana champ, you know, they'll get Rod of the Ages or Seraphs or something like that. But maybe you see this as like a third item more often. We'll just see. Anyone that has a built-in slow would be nice for. So like Anivia is someone I'm thinking of here, but this would be like a third item. Yeah, because I think you still have to go Seraph's, Rod, and then Leandri, so we'll see. But anyways, that's going to be it for this patch notes. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, not a huge amount of changes, but pretty decent shakeup for supports. In general, like, what would I like to see, since this is kind of a shorter video, just really quickly, for the last 5 minutes or so here. Nerfs, I think the game's pretty balanced overall right now. I'm trying to think of, like, who is... Kai'Sa needs a little bit more. I mean, it's cool to let her have the AP build, but... I don't know what I would do with Kai'Sa. Maybe, just nerf her ratios a little bit. It's not like, just her AP ratio on... Maybe on her W. Because that doesn't feel like that's integral to her kit, but it just does, like, a lot of damage randomly and has really good, like, AP and AD ratios. It is the skill shot component, which is nice, but if we're thinking of Kai'Sa as someone who's supposed to be, like, a hyper-scaling auto-attack base carry, kind of like a Vayne, that does AP damage, then I would probably get rid of the W. It just does too much poke, potentially, or increase the cooldown on her ult, although the ult is cool to use, or, like, lower the shield on the ult. Something like that. So I think her damage is okay. It's just like she has too much other utility. So I would nerf Kai'Sa in some way. I don't think of who else. Ryze is difficult to balance. They did nerf him last patch, so I guess we'll see how that goes through. Ornn has already played a lot. He's kind of a fun champion to play and watch. I would like to see some Ivern buffs, or just like some more buffs to utility junglers like Ivern and Nunu. I think that they need to add in something. I would like to see them add in like a rune that gives more, that gives a lot more vision control, but you have to take it as a keystone. So kind of like the old zombie ward, but you take it as a keystone. Maybe in like the utility tree. Or just something like that. Because I feel like the removal of, and Lee Sin might like something like that too. The removal of Tracker's Knife really hurt a lot of junglers. And I think that having vision is good. I understand why they don't want everyone to have vision, but I think if you had to get a keystone for it, you know, in the utility tree, or... I think that would make the most sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me why the vision, like, zone with Domination and Ghost Poro, why that's in the Domination tree rather than... I mean, I guess they're, you know, maybe they were initially thinking of the Domination tree as a jungle tree, and so they wanted to put some vision in there. But to me, it makes more sense as, like, a utility thing. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Jax might need a little bit of dialing back. He feels so strong in some circumstances. I think that, like, Gragas and Graves might need a little touch. Ahri's numbers need to come down a little bit. But overall, I think the game's in a pretty good state. I'm trying to think of someone that's, like, fun and cool that I would like to see some buffs on. I don't know. It's tough to say. I guess there are a lot... Bard. I think if I had to say like buff one champion, especially as a support role, it'd be Bard. And I think that because his itemization, this would also help out champions maybe like Bard that don't have a great keystone. If he could just get something with vision, that would be cool. But he's a fun champ. He's very unique. You know, I just think that a lot of times it's too risky to go get those meeps and leave your AD carry alone, and you're not rewarded enough for that. So I think that the meeps should do something like also give, at certain thresholds, give cooldown reduction to your ult. Or I think a really good space here that you could use is if people go through Magical Journey, if it's allies, they get some kind of buff, or if it's enemies, they get some kind of like debuff. Right? So maybe if allies go through it, then they get a move speed increase of 30% for 3 seconds or something. Then you could actually use it as an initiation tool or as an escape tool, right? It would help you get away faster. But you could also warp through walls and like bring in your jungler and they would get all this extra speed. I don't know if that's exactly the right number, that kind of speed boost, but I'm just saying something like that could be helpful. They could also give some sort of stats like you know, gets extra AP or AD or something. But I think move speed makes the most sense given sort of what Bard is already doing. That would help him when he uses Magical Journey, like go and collect the chimes more too. Maybe every time you pick up a chime, it lowers the cooldown on Magical Journey by like 2 seconds or something. So that if he runs around and grabs those charms, he could use it more often to get back to where he was. And just to sort of zip around the map. To help him just get to where he wants to be. So I think that would be cool. The problem with Bard, though, is that he doesn't have a lot of scaling, right? Like his W doesn't, you don't get points in that. It doesn't scale. His E has no scaling on it. His ult has no scaling on it. It's really only just his Q and his auto attacks on his meeps. So I think that having the meeps give cooldown reduction to the ult would be awesome. Having Magical Journey give some kind of speed buff to allies, or if enemies go through it, maybe it lowers their speed. I don't know. I think just even a speed buff to allies would be nice. That increases per level that you put in it. So maybe it starts at 10 or something like that at level 1. And it goes like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Something like that. And maybe give it like a 0.1 AP ratio. I don't know. Just something like that I think would be cool. Or if they want him to be more aggressive in the laning phase, at least take his range up to 525. 500 is just such a low range, and it's just so dangerous in the laning phase to land that on people. But I think he has a lot of opportunities to be a lot more than he is right now. That would be cool. So, anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. Didn't want to make it too long, but since it was kind of on the shorter side, I figured I would just add in a couple of my thoughts about bans, or like nerfs and maybe a buff or two. But that's going to be it. Thanks. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the rest of the content on the channel. We have a ton of stuff out there. Tier lists, individual champion playlist, champion guides, topical guides. I stream most nights starting around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a coaching video playlist. Tons and tons of stuff. So come check it out. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day.